Hello everyone, welcome to We Love Soaps TV. I'm Roger Newcomb.
And I'm Damon L. Jacobs, author of Absolutely Shoulдлess, and we are so fortunate to be sitting here today with Hollywood's happiest TV personality, Nelson Aspen.
Happy.
And also the writer of Hollywood Insiders Exposed, which I am just starting and so far loving.
See, you could put it down.
I can't even put it down right now, but I'm going to try while we're talking. But really, I'm enjoying this book, and we're going to talk more about this book shortly. But Nelson, welcome to We Love Soaps. It's so great to be able to speak with you for a bit.
Well, we've been emailing, and I'm such a daily user of We Love Soaps.
Oh, and, that's so nice to hear.
That's how I found them.
How do you use it?
I use it in completely family-friendly ways.
Okay, all right. So, Nelson, you have quite an extensive history in the American daytime soap operas.
It is, yeah, and considering I'm an international entertainment reporter, I don't get to express my knowledge, love, and trivia for all things American soap as often as I'd like, because my audience doesn't get it.
So tell us first, who is your audience and what are you doing? Who is your international audience?
I report 6 days a week for the #1 morning show of Australia. It's called Sunrise. That's my background that we use when I'm in New York. When I'm in Hollywood, we have a Hollywood background.
That's a secret.
And I also report for an Irish show, and I just talk and bring the latest entertainment news. I interview celebrities and cover red carpet events, et cetera, et cetera. It's a dream job. I certainly never expected when I was working in soaps that I would be an international entertainment reporter. And the most common question I get is, how do I get to do what you do? It looks so glamorous, it's so much fun. It has its moments of glamour and fun, but you cannot go to college for this. Yes, I studied journalism, but that didn't get me my job. It helps me keep my job. And the very strange route that I took from working in daytime television on and behind the camera to being a fitness professional to broadcasting. I always say I got my job because I was hired to teach Lady Di step aerobics, that hot workout from 1986. I was a popular step instructor. It was a new gimmick, and they sent me to England to train the princess. And while I was there, I appeared on a morning breakfast show, and they said, "Oh, you're terrific. Why don't you be our celebrity fitness correspondent?" So next thing you know, I'm doing Fitness for Pets with Betty White. Ladies boxing with Michelle Phillips. I mean, It was just crazy stuff, and that, celebrity hook led to today. But thank God for my background in daytime. It taught me not only how to be around a camera and be comfortable, but to know about production. And so I worked on the production staffs of every East Coast-based soap back in the 80s. So
wow.
Now, there were a lot more then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, really.
What's funny is Search for Tomorrow, which was is my heart and soul, is Search for Tomorrow. I grew up watching it, and then I worked on it, and I was there until the very last day. I just gave away Lee Godar's coat that I nicked. It was way too big for me, but I just gave it away to my doorman because I've been holding on to it for all these years. I thought, I'm never going to grow into this coat. I'm not going to get any bigger, so I better give it away.
Now, what appealed to you as a child watching Search for Tomorrow? What appealed to you about the show?
It was my mom's soap. It was her story.
Yeah.
And when I was at my grandma's house, that's what we did. We started, it was a full day, because you started with The Price is Right, and then we went through all the shows, from Search for Tomorrow, Young and the Restless, As the World Turns, Guiding Light. And there was something about Guiding Light. It was the Evie, Ben, Amanda storyline in 1979 that turned me into a soap fan, as opposed to just a casual, oh, my grandma's watching this. So I have a great fondness for Guiding Light, although Ellen Wheeler beat my heart to smithereens in the final years.
We were just talking about Lenore Kasdorf, I think, maybe last week.
Yeah.
Who I loved as Rita. She was so great.
So great. And was there anything hotter than Rita and Alan Spaulding on the beach? That was unheard of. And now, we're so used to seeing outdoor filming because that's the new normal. But back in those days, it was so exotic, just if they would go out to a parking lot, let alone a beach.
Right.
Now, how did a soap fan get to be someone who worked on the soaps? What did you do, and how did this come about?
I was an aspiring actor in New York City in the early 80s, and I took a soap opera acting class. You know, a lot of casting directors, you know, that's easy cash for them. They go and, you know, and every young actor's dreaming, oh, maybe I'll get a job on a show if I meet the casting director and pay him all my money that I'm waiting on tables to earn.
Or pay him something else? Does that really happen?
There was none of that.
None of that, okay.
And Bobby
Just making
Nigro,
sure.
Robert Nigro was the casting director of Search for Tomorrow. I took his class just because I wanted to meet the Search for Tomorrow casting director because my grandma watches that show. Although it didn't air in New York at the time. It had
Really?
CBS, maybe it didn't air. It didn't air in Pennsylvania where my grandmother was living because as the ratings were dwindling, the affiliates were dropping it.
Yes.
It was
So
still on CBS though at the time?
No, they were on NBC.
NBC.
Joanna Lee was the producer. And I did the soap opera class. Months went by, and then one day the phone rang, and Bobby called and had some extra work for me. But it was a scene with Olympia Dukakis. Olympia Dukakis was on Search for Tomorrow.
Wow.
And I
don't even know, I don't think that's on her resume
No,
anymore,
it's probably not. But when you know, what's funny is I interview Olympia Dukakis, I bring up Search for Tomorrow. I interviewed Meryl Streep the other day, and I reminded her about Search for Tomorrow and the fact that her brother, Meryl Streep's brother Harry, is married to Maeve Kincaid, who was Vanessa Chamberlain Reardon. So, I mean, everybody, Search for Tomorrow was around for so long, and everybody went through the doors in some way or another. There's 2 degrees of Search for Tomorrow.
Wow. Wow.
And some people played the same character like on the same day through those doors.
That's right. But I stayed at Search, and I ended up becoming a script typist.
How did that work? How did that happen?
Because I was there a lot. I was there a lot as an extra. Whenever there was a scene in the ice cream parlor, I was the kid in the ice cream parlor. And then I was a fast typist, pre-internet. You know, everybody's a fast typist
Was
now.
it like a word processor?
Not even. It was a typewriter with correcting ribbon.
Like an electric typewriter, or just those old
No, it was
typewriters?
an electric. I'm not that old. It was an electric typewriter. We had electricity back when, you know, it wasn't live either. It was a taped show. But just wonderful stories. And I got to work with Mary Stuart, who became my mentor. I started doing her fan mail in exchange for acting lessons.
Now, and you talk very much in your book
Whole
about your
chapter.
relationship with Mary Stuart.
I won't bore you with Mary Stuart here because the whole chapter's in the book.
But you two became pretty good friends.
Well, very tight. And in fact, when she got the role on Guiding Light, and she won, if she was going to do another show, it had to be Guiding Light, because she and Charita had been lifelong friends, and they were the 2 grand dames. And her original pitch to the show was coming in as a character named Hannah Bauer. And years went by, and a new character, a long-lost Bauer sister.
Oh.
And, you know, that would have been Bill Bauer's sister or something. Anyway, Maida was great, but she didn't really know about Maida's character, and I wrote a Bible for Mary on Maida. I did all the research I could on everything that ever happened to Maida, so she could go in knowing that ahead of time. And Mary was a very gifted writer, in addition to being an actress, and has done what even Laurence Olivier couldn't do, keep one character interesting for 35 years.
That's right.
You probably should have given that to the writers as well.
That was Malie Taggart at the time, I believe. And it's funny because I know Malie's daughter, Heather, and Malie, of course, worked on Search for Tomorrow with Mary. They were co-stars for many years together. And I saw Malie at Mary's memorial service and told her the story about the Bible, and she just thought that was wonderful. And I'm still in contact with Mary's family, and her legacy is unreal. And any of you who don't know who Mary Stuart is, just jump on YouTube and do a little bit of research. It's worth it.
Or put Mary Stuart in it. We Love Soaps, because we featured information about past history and new information.
Right, well, we've talked about the best, I think we exchanged emails, the best endings of a soap opera.
Yeah.
And maybe the soap wasn't creatively good, but I thought the Search for Tomorrow ending with Mary saying tomorrow, I thought that was the best.
It was a beautiful ending, and it was unfortunate because the last string of writers that came in, writers love to come in and create new characters because they get a paycheck for those characters, even if the writer's fired and moves on to another show. As long as their character stays on the show, they get a residual check. So at the end of Search for Tomorrow, it was all these barely recognizable characters. So to come up with a satisfying ending was a real challenge, and I think they pulled it off. And all of us who had been on the show in the past, they invited past actors, whether or not they were killed off, and I was last seen in a flood, to come back and be extras in the airport scene. And if you look closely, you'll see Larkin Malloy as an extra.
Oh, really?
In the last scene.
This is the last scene where Liza
at the airport
thinks
with Liza
she's found a Travis lookalike.
Right.
Yes, and you're in that scene.
Well, there are two airport scenes: Liza and Travis, and Quinn and Kat. And they're supposed to be two different airports, but if you look, they're the same extras. There was only one airport set.
Wow, that's... So, what do you think led, looking back on it, what do you think led to the downfall of Search for Tomorrow? What happened there?
Well, you know, like you said, there were many more soaps in those days. So Search for Tomorrow's ratings were, they were the lowest ratings. And now, like, Young and the Restless would kill to have those ratings
Sure.
now. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. But it was in last place, and it moved, CBS was going to cancel it. So NBC said, we'll pick it up. But not all the NBC affiliates took it, so that it couldn't even fairly compete in the rating system. So it just wasn't a moneymaker, and that's the cold, hard reality. No matter what stunts they tried, and even some good storylines. They brought John Glover in as a crazed psychopath who thought Mary Stuart was his mother, and he kidnapped her. And seeing poor old Joe stuffed in the trunk and beaten up viewers loved it, because they put her back on the front burner. And this is my pet peeve with all the shows that seem to forget about their core families. Again, it might be the writers just trying to create new characters to make themselves some money. Mm-hmm. But when a story loses its history, it's lost. It's lost at sea. And you saw this with all the soaps that are gone or are struggling. Even if you just bring in Frances Reed once a week with a plate of donuts, it's something. It's some connection.
Well, I agree with you. I think we've seen this in every soap that has gone off the air, that there, as you said, this continuous wheel of writers that come in. I didn't really understand until you said it, the financial reasons why. I just thought it might be ego, that writers would come in and want to create their own families, but you actually have a really good point that there's financial incentive for new writers to come in and create a new family, hoping that that will be the new thing, and then, you know, a few years later, another writer comes in and does the same. But we were saying...
it's money, you know,
it's a money thing.
And the older actors cost too much money, so they use the young ones. They get the young ones in cheap who are just happy to be on TV, you know, so they use them 4 days a week.
And yet the shows that are thriving now, or at least surviving right now, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives, which are usually the 3 highest rated shows, are shows that still have their veteran family, their core families on, and they may not always be used in full capacity, but they're around. As you said, Maggie Horton is around. Young and the Restless and Bold and the Beautiful uses their veterans every single day.
Can I tell you, the first paycheck I ever got from Search for Tomorrow, I can't remember the ad agency at the time. It wasn't through Procter & Gamble. It was a separate ad agency from whom we got our checks. And I in those days, you know, there was no such thing as direct deposit. I went down and I picked up my check. And the logo, the company logo of the ad agency on my first TV paycheck said, quote, "It's not creative unless it sells." And, you know, as an artist, I was gutted. But that's the sad reality of the business. You know, Mary always knew she was selling soap at the end of the day.
Right. I mean, that is why they call them soap operas. They were originally meant to sell soap products, and I think I sometimes get lost with that when I get, you know, upset about the creative, or the lack of creative focus on some of my favorite shows. You know, I especially felt that way during the last few years of Another World. You know, year after year was a new writer, was a new family, it was a new cast. It was very frustrating. Tell us about your experience on Another World.
I loved my time at Another World.
Yeah.
It was
When
so
were you
great.
there?
I put on 30 pounds because, you know, they'd schlep us out to Brooklyn every morning and we'd eat deli food all morning, noon, and night. You know, we were just there. I came in right as Anne Heche was coming in. And so Anne and I became friends, and she was the most talented girl I've ever known, and I'm still on Team Anne. I mean, I'm always her great defender because she's so incredibly gifted. And there was a writer's strike, and I was working as a writer's assistant, that famous writer's strike that went on
1988.
for years. I mean, it didn't go for years. It went on for months.
Yeah.
And as a writer's assistant, those of us who were left, you know, you couldn't advance the story so much that it would screw things up for when the strike was over, but you had to keep something going on. So my suggestion, among other assistants who all sort of got together to figure out what the heck we could do, since somebody should write this show, why not bring back some popular characters in the meantime, you know? And hence, Jake McKinnon came back, and he stayed. He stayed for the rest of the show and then on to As the World Turns, and Iris Wheeler. We said, let's get Iris Wheeler back. And Carmen Duncan was brilliant. I mean, it was a whole new take than Beverly's Iris, but it was going back to core history.
That's really interesting. That was also the time that Matt and Josie became a couple, a young couple.
Well, they were cheap. They were young kids that we could use a lot, because we had to look and you say, well, Linda Dano's expensive, so don't use her too much. How many scripts a week can Linda Dano be in? Because she's expensive. But these kids, they're working for nothing, so we'll put them in every day.
Did you want to use characters like Rachel and Mac and Ada more often?
Yeah, but you'd be surprised, and I wasn't in charge of anything like that, thank God. But so much of the storyline is driven by cost. Who can we use?
Even back then, huh?
And they had all their focus groups, and I wasn't privy to that, but like who people want to see. Yeah, Matt Crane without his shirt on is something a lot of viewers wanted to see. But they wanted to see it in context with Ada with her dish rag. Or, remember she always had her dish rag thrown over her shoulder.
Well, we've talked a lot about how when young characters come on, when they all interact with each other exclusively, they tend to fail. But when they're with their parents or grandparents, people tend to accept them a lot more. And
Melrose Place is learning this now by bringing Heather Locklear in and putting her in scenes with Thomas Calabro and Josie Bissett. That's the lesson.
Right. Now, when you were working at Another World, did you have any interaction with Harding LeMay? He came back for a hot minute, and then
no, he was. I think I had really seriously put on 30 pounds, and when the writer's strike was over, I was like, I gotta go now. I gotta go to a gym, and I left, and that's when Harding came in. But he was in a really good place because the Frame family had sort of been rebuilt. They invented Charlene. I don't think Charlene existed.
No, she was on, and the actress who played her in the 70s, she was on for a short time. The actress who played her in the 70s won the Outstanding Lead Actress Award in 1978 over Beverly and Victoria Wyndham, and it was a shock because even back then, nobody knew who she was.
Maybe that's why they got rid of her. Vicky and
Beverly McKinsey
were not happy.
Yeah. Beverly McKinsey to this day never won an Emmy, but Laurie Heineman in 1978 won
I didn't realize
an Emmy
that.
for Charlene Watts' Frame.
Well, it was great. And, and Another World did have a good sense of their history. They would bring Dorothy Lyman back. And when Doug Watson passed away,
Yes.
I might add, in an aerobics class, Doug Watson was a dancer before he became a soap star. And he passed away of heart failure while he was at a spa. He was exercising. He was still and I love that about Doug. He was dancing till the end kind of thing. But, having Irene Daly as Aunt Liz.
Yeah. Well, when he died, they brought back Larry and Clarice. They brought back some old school characters.
So, a sense of history, yeah. And I worked at One Life to Live as an assistant casting director.
When was that?
Oh gosh, I was there for the whole Vicky in a coma on a spaceship and Clint in the Old West. It was around that time period. I worked at Loving for a while. I was freelancing around for stuff.
Did you feel like there was a different culture between working at P&G versus ABC shows?
Well, I was really in with the P&G folks because of Search and my love for Guiding Light. I have a lot of friends working at As the World Turns, and just sort of the simpatico between Guiding Light and Another World. So it was a family thing. And you heard about things. Hey, there's a job coming up over here. Why don't you put in for it? So there was the network of Procter & Gamble soaps. And in fact, when Edge of Night was canceled, our Search for Tomorrow studio moved into their old studio.
Oh. I was going to ask you, where was Search shot at CBS? Did it change when it went to NBC?
Well, at CBS, it was over on West 57th Street. And then when it came to NBC, it moved to Reeves Teletape on West 81st, which is now a movie Cineplex up there. And then it moved to East 44th to take over where Edge of Night was. Because Edge of Night, it was the same thing. Well, okay, who's next on the death list? Edge of Night dwindled, budget cuts, shoestring, out. Search for Tomorrow, in. And when Search was canceled, Guiding Light moved in. So it was that pattern. It's where you went to die.
Did anybody on Search have the opinion? Because, CBS replaced it with Capitol. And, Capitol had a 5-year run. It never... it did okay. It wasn't, at the bottom of the ratings, but after 5 years, they canceled it. So they didn't replace Search with something that lasted.
Right.
So
look at Guiding Light and Let's Make a Deal. But, I think Capitol would have lasted a lot longer. I was a big Capitol fan. Deborah Ferrantino was a friend of mine. That's where I first met Marge Doucet. Capitol would have lasted longer if they hadn't pushed Bold and the Beautiful in. And that had a happy ending. So,
But what did you think of the Capitol ending? Since we were
I
talking,
loved it.
You
I loved
did?
it.
You did?
Yeah, because it was a different show. It was not a warm family. It wasn't a show about warm families.
So
It
for
was a
those who don't
cliffhanger.
know, let's talk about the Capitol ending. Unlike Search for Tomorrow, where there was a lot of emotion and a lot of loving and a lot of closure, Capitol ended
Cliffhangers
with the main heroine tied to being executed, essentially.
She's in front of the firing squad.
She's in front of the firing squad.
Marge Doucet's character was like in the middle of a nasty divorce, and they left everything.
Everything was open.
Hey, I
You
mean,
like
I
that,
just,
though?
I loved it. It just left me wanting more. And I find myself now with Guiding Light. I mean, I'm still. It's been months now, but I'm still. I think about it. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, Nelson, get a grip, you geek. Why are you thinking about the characters? It's strange, but they do become so much a part of your life.
Well, what happens? We've all watched soaps for a long time, and when a show is bad or going through a bad turn, we've all seen it come out. We've all seen our shows go down and come back. But as long as it's on the air, there's always hope, no matter how little money they have. But when it's gone forever, and it's like nobody's rerunning them, and it's just sad.
I miss Ryan's Hope too, and I liked their ending. I thought it had a show appropriate ending. I think Ryan's Hope was show appropriate, just as Capitals was appropriate to its sort of theme and style. And the problem with Ryan's Hope going off, sad to say, was we got at Search for Tomorrow their producer. Ellen Barrett came to Search for Tomorrow and replaced Joanna Lee. And we were just, the show was in such trouble. It was always looking for a fix. And you'd get a new executive producer, you'd get a new head writer, you'd get a new storyline, or something. And Ellen Barrett came in, and, to her credit, she had had success with Ryan's Hope. She tried to turn Search for Tomorrow into Ryan's Hope. Here comes the new Irish family, and all the action centered around the Irish bar.
The McClarys.
And here came Malachi McCourt as the bartender, fresh from his role as the bartender on Ryan's Hope. And in came, Louise Schaefer came along too. She had been a Ryan's Hope gal. A lot of the Ryan's Hope people came over. And
So Louise Schaefer came in and she played.
Louise Schaefer, I love her to death, and she's a very funny lady.
Yeah.
She's a funny lady. You don't get that from her soap roles, but she's hysterical. And she had a very difficult position. She had difficult shoes, high heels to fill. Marie Cheatham, who had been Stephanie on Search for years and years, enormously popular as sort of a Lucinda Walsh, I think it's fair to say, kind of character. And Marie was let go, just like that. And Louise came in the next day. So she had a really tough job. It was literally a scene. Marie was doing a scene with Lisa Peluso on a Tuesday, and on a Wednesday, Lisa Peluso turns around and it's now Louise Schaefer.
Yeah, I've even talked to Louise about that. There was as a fan, it was very difficult to watch because Marie Cheatham was so good, and her relationship with Lisa Peluso on that show was great. And I think Louise knows that it was a very tough thing for fans to take as well.
Well, and she handled it beautifully. She knew what she was walking into. And here's a funny urban legend that I'll tell you about Marie leaving. Whether or not it's true, we may never know. But she was sitting up in hair and makeup. I happened to be in hair and makeup. A fun place to hang out back then because you could smoke, you could eat, you could drink. It was the good old days up in hair and makeup. That's where all the fun people were. And Marie was sitting there reading a newspaper. There had been some tragedy somewhere in the world. People died in a earthquake, let's say. 100 people killed in an earthquake, and not one of them was a writer. It seemed to coincide strangely with her departure. I don't know who else was listening, but anyway.
One thing I've learned by talking to a lot of actors, you don't insult your writers, or one sometimes is replaced or your character is sent to rehab or put in a coma.
Marie should have just written her own dialogue. She was fabulous. She could.
Well, speaking of that, there are those and even more interesting stories in your wonderful, wonderful book. And I just want to make sure that people know that you have a book out there. It's going to make a great read for the holidays. Hollywood Insider Exposed. So we talk some about Mary Stuart, Search for Tomorrow, and also about a lot of other stars. Angelina Jolie is mentioned in here. There's so many stars of the past and present.
I've met them all. I've interviewed them all. I've done some other things that I talk about in the book.
What about James Franco? Is he in here mentioned? He's not in here? Okay.
I never did him.
I ask about James Franco because, this week General Hospital is featuring, and for the next few weeks, is going to be featuring this huge James Franco storyline. And this is really the first time in our memory that a Hollywood star, while still kind of on the rise, a young star in their career, has joined a soap opera. What do you think? What do you think of that?
I think it shows you what a kind of quirky, hyper-intelligent kind of guy he must be, in a sort of James Deanish kind of way. Like, I'm so inquisitive. I'm so inquisitive. Like, he went to school when he could have just been content being an Oscar-nominated actor. No, he went back to school, and then he just kind of got this curiosity. It's like a Heath Ledger had that quality. Just this insane, insatiable desire to learn. And I think that's what motivated James to want to give soaps a try. It just happened to be General Hospital, lucky for them. But I think it's great. Maybe it'll inspire other people to do it. And it's certainly such a boost for General Hospital to get national exposure.
Do you think it's going to be a boost in terms of ratings?
Well, time will tell. I don't know if anybody that really wants to see James Franco for James Franco can wait till it's on YouTube. I don't know if that's going to bring in extra regular viewers, but an awareness, a spin, something like that is good. And I wish somebody would do that with Venice. I wish James Franco would go do Venice or one of the web shows to sort of kick that off in a positive way, so it's just not an ensemble of established daytimers. Let's get some other people in there.
Yeah. Well, Roger and I were really wondering about what kind of impact this James Franco gig was going to have on General Hospital. And true to form, we decided to just go out there and ask the people of New York ourselves whether or not they were going to watch this and whether it was going to make any difference in the ratings or not. So I want to play a clip of what we found when we went out and we asked the good people of New York City what they thought about all this, okay?
Yep.
Roger, James Franco has started on General Hospital.
That's great, but do you think it'll make anybody watch the show?
I actually really don't think it's going to make that significant of a difference. I might be a bit of a pessimist, but I really don't think James Franco's appearance on General Hospital is going to count. I don't think if we ask the people around here if they're going to stop their day and watch James Franco, that they would. What do you think?
He's an A-list star. No A-list star at the height of their career has joined a soap before. I actually think a lot of people would watch if they knew James Franco was joining this cast.
Well, it's too early for us to know what the ratings are, but I'd say let's take our own ratings survey right here in New York City.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So James Franco, A-list movie star. He was in Milk. He's been in all these movies. Would you watch him on General Hospital? Are you going to watch him today?
Nah, I'm not a big fan of soap operas, so I don't. Even though I like him as an actor, I'm not a big fan of soap operas.
So just because you like him as an actor, that wouldn't make you watch General Hospital today, huh?
Nah, not really.
Did you know that James Franco is starting on General Hospital this week?
No, I didn't know it. You're just telling me now.
Yeah. Would you watch General Hospital?
Yes, sure. I love General Hospital.
Do you know that James Franco was starting on General Hospital?
I didn't know. I had no idea.
You had no idea?
No idea.
Do you watch General Hospital?
I don't.
Would you watch General Hospital if you knew James Franco was going to be on?
If I knew who he was and he was a good actor, sure, why not?
We're asking people if are you going to watch James Franco on General Hospital?
No.
Well, actually, my wife watches it.
She watches the show.
Every day.
Every day, no matter what.
No
so
matter
she's
what.
Watch James Franco.
She's been watching it for years, General Hospital.
Yeah? Did you know James Franco was going to be on General Hospital this week?
I was General Hospital.
A soap opera.
I never seen a soap opera in my life.
Never.
Never.
Did you know that James Franco was going to be on General Hospital this week?
James who?
So I'm just asking people out here today if anyone's going to watch James Franco on General Hospital for the next few weeks.
I would totally watch it. Definitely. I love soaps.
Did you know that James Franco was going to start on General Hospital?
No, not at all.
No?
Until you told me.
No, sorry.
No? Would you watch it?
Sure.
James Franco's going to be on it?
Sure.
It's a soap opera?
Uh-huh.
I saw a soap commercial once.
Is there any actor or actress that would make you watch General Hospital? Who
I
would
like
make
Tom
you-
Hanks. I like Will Smith.
Tom Hanks, Will Smith, if they
Yeah.
were on General Hospital, you would watch?
I would watch it.
All right.
David Lynch.
David Lynch, the director?
Yes.
If he was going to direct a show, you would watch it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Man, if you put Halle Berry on there, I watch it all day long.
Halle Berry. Now that you know, would you watch General Hospital, knowing that?
I'll give it a try.
You would give it a try.
All right, so as you can see, there's like a mixed response. Some people didn't even know who James Franco was. So,
Right. But a lot of people also, even didn't seem to know with all the publicity, didn't know. But thanks to us, now they know, and they are going to watch.
We did get them a few more
we
viewers.
got them a few more viewers, I think.
Are they good to you? Are the soap people good to you guys? Because they should be. Do they appreciate what you do?
This is my blank face. No, honestly, actually,
I can't help but interview. I've got to interview you now.
I just
You take this one.
did a post a couple of days ago, and I gave kudos to Ezra Turns for doing they're doing these full-page ads. They actually have a really good story right now.
Yeah. I don't know about Ben Franklin on the roof being so good, but okay.
they're promoting it, and but I started off with sometimes it seems like these shows don't want to publicize themselves, and that's what I found in terms of a few shows, the P&G shows even, Guiding Light even reached out to the online community. Days of Our Lives has recently done that.
Right.
But the other shows, they tend to look at us in a negative light. Like and our site's very positive and uplifting, and we try to promote the shows. And they kind of lump us all in as kind of message board haters.
It's a shame that soap operas don't seem to have embraced the trends as rapidly as other mediums have.
Yeah.
I was typing scripts on an electric typewriter. There was no internet, but there was tons of fan mail. Probably nobody writes letters to stars anymore, but that
no, they do.
And
they do.
Mary Stuart read every single one of those letters, and everybody got a reply.
Wow.
And I would open them up for her, and I remember one day I'm like, oh, you got a letter from my grandmother. Let's answer it. So potholders too.
I think the daytime shows too, and I don't know where this falls into, but I think they do miss a lot of opportunities that the primetime shows take advantage of in terms of using new media to get watchers and viewers invested in the shows.
The fan events are great. I see that they do the things at Disneyland or wherever they have these fan events, but not every fan is going to be able to get there.
Well, and One Life to Live recently, and I said this before in our show, that they had this beautiful, beautiful wedding episode with the gay weddings, and it was such a celebration, and it was funny, and it was sad, and it was touching, and it had so many wonderful things going for it, but who outside of the One Life to Live fan base knew about it?
Right.
There was no outreach to gay communities. There was no organizational thing to say, let's get everybody together and watch the show.
I actually read a few negative things from some gay websites about that because they felt they were making fun of it. That maybe they missed an opportunity to make the point that Pennsylvania, where Landview is, doesn't have gay marriage, and we should talk about that more. But whatever, But I like it that Springfield or Henderson is in a nondescript state. I don't think we need to be that accurate.
Right. So there's a lot. I think we're very much in transition in terms of the work we're doing and how the work we're doing is perceived. And, I think, on soaps, we generally get the looked down upon it by, mainstream media in many ways, too. I don't know if that was your experience.
Well, daytime has always been, they thumb their noses at that. Like, it's not movies, it's not prime time, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Harder working, more creative most of the time.
I have noticed, though, lately that some of the major stories have broken outside the traditional means, like either an Entertainment Weekly or through the Associated Press, or something other than like the TV Guide magazine soap column or a soap opera digest.
And I think that's the benefit of the pros and the cons of having James Franco come to General Hospital, is that, it's really getting national attention.
I loved going to my grandma's house, and she'd have the magazine rack, and there would be all the daytime magazines, and it seemed so glamorous. But that's what you guys are providing to today's audience. We don't have those magazines anymore. We have you.
Oh, we try.
Well, my daytime magazines, I actually just moved yesterday, and everything came out of my attic. I moved into a small apartment, and it's going into storage, but I have bin after bin after bin of every soap opera digest I had as a kid, and just, so many of them.
Wow.
No eBay for that?
They don't really sell on eBay. They're not really.
I know a certain Telenext executive who shall remain nameless that would just want you to put them all on Kindle. Give them away and put them all on Kindle.
But also the advantage now of electronic media is that we can report on stories fast while they're happening.
Oh, I can. Once a day is not enough to stop by.
Absolutely. And thank you. And there has been so much happening, especially this past week, that I wanted to talk with you about and get your take on. One major news item that's come up this past week is that Charles Pratt was removed in his position as head writer of All My Children. Any thoughts about that?
You know what? I gave up on All My Children ages ago. It really just doesn't grab me.
Why? What was the point that you gave up?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's only so many hours in a day that I'm willing to commit to things, and unfortunately, Guiding Light has freed up an hour. I just don't know. That's a sad thing, but I don't know. It's boring. It's a boring show, And I know a lot of people from what I read in your column don't like Jamie Luner, but I didn't really know Marcy Walker. So to me, Jamie Luner's, I didn't have to make an adjustment. And she's fun to watch because I remember her from Melrose Place. So to me, it's that. But I think that the thing with Charles Pratt is he was trying to make a primetime show in daytime, and it's not. It's a different animal. And I had a great conversation. I remember Chris Goutman and I were talking years ago about the state of daytime, and we were talking about telenovelas and how the Spanish station seemed to have it right because there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. It did end. You knew it was going to end, but you'd see the same core of actors move from show to show to show, and you'd have these finite number of episodes that would make up the telenovela. And we were talking even then, that was probably 15, 20 years ago, we were having this conversation that maybe that's where daytime would go, where you would have limited series. And maybe that's something not to do, I'm not suggesting we do it with the existing shows, but maybe there's like Masterpiece Theater for soaps, where you have 26 weeks of a show.
Poor Charles tried that. I don't think they were very successful with that, but poor Charles tried that format before they went off the air. I think with, again, James Franco and General Hospital, that's kind of what they're doing. There's like a beginning to the story, there's going to be a middle, and there's going to be an end. And that's one of the things that I think General Hospital does well when they do is very short-term storytelling, quick arc, much like the telenovelas. Personally, I don't enjoy that, or I don't get a lot of fulfillment from that. The stories that I watched, with my mother, and the stories that I watched as a kid and would run home to tape, the never-ending stories on Days of Our Lives or Another World or, As the World Turns, it just goes on and on and on, and kind of like life. You don't really know if or when the story's going to end, and it always kind of stays with you throughout your various adventures.
For years I was thinking, oh, please someone put Guiding Light out of its misery. I mean, you would shoot a horse. Guiding Light had just become so unwatchable.
When did you think that?
Oh God! The minute it went outside, I mean, it was in trouble anyway. But the minute it went to PPAC, I was like, you could no longer suspend your disbelief that the Spaldings were rich. I mean, it was like, they don't look rich to me. It was just a mess and so boring and whatever. And then Otalia came around and they started to get their groove on. And I think when the cancellation was announced, April Fool's Day, is when I started to say, oh, maybe you should, don't kill it yet, don't euthanize it, euthanize it, because I kept thinking, oh, please, somebody, help them out of this. And then when they decided to, I regretted making that wish.
Now, did you ever follow Young and the Restless? Were you?
Yeah, I've been a Young and Restless fan for years.
This week it was announced that Shamar Moore's character of Malcolm is going to be recasted.
They sure did. Big difference.
Darius McCrary
from Family Matters.
Family Matters.
Where he was also on with Brighton, who is on Young and the Restless. What did you think about? I mean, Shamar Moore is such an electric presence on daytime. He was on
when he's shirtless. When he's shirtless,
he's also he's one of the greatest hunks in soaps in terms of looks and body, and people don't associate Darius McCrary with that same type of sex appeal.
Maybe he's been working out. You never know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
There are, and if you look at more current pictures of him, there are some kind of sexy pictures, and there's some kind of not so sexy pictures. So maybe they're gonna.
I think it's a good thing, and you're not going to get Shamar back anyway. So embrace it. Take the day or two to get over it, and give it a chance. Because most importantly, the African American family there has been cut down to nothing. Mm-hmm. So build that back up and bring in an established character that has some history. The Winters family just has nothing to do. Get him in there. He's got some the character has some history. Bring them onto the front burner more. And like I said, I didn't know Marcy Walker's Liza, so I only know Jamie Luner. So I'm more accepting of Jamie Luner than other Liza fans.
It was just, there's a big age difference, and there's an age difference here too, but it's kind of like if you think of the Four Musketeers on Guiding Light, and there wasn't really an equivalent on much of them, but there was a group of actors who started at the same time, young actors who kind of came along together. what if suddenly Mindy was 15 years younger than the other three Musketeers? It just it makes no sense.
Well, and that's why, somebody like a Beth Chamberlain was a brilliant recast for Beth. My very good friend Felice Sampler had the tremendously difficult task of replacing Anna Stewart on Another World.
I remember that.
And she made the part her own. It was a reinvention of Donna, and a much younger looking, if I may say that, with all apologies to Anna. Felice was just such a baby face, and she made that her own. And unfortunately for Felice, Anna wanted to come back, and they brought her back.
I had a hard time with that one because she was really popular in Days of Our Lives, and I loved her in the Tony and Renee storyline. She came on at a bad time for Another World. 86 I thought was a really good year, but Ellen Wheeler, Tom Eplin, Stephen Schnetzer, Julie Osborne, all of these people that were really the focus of 86, they all left at the end of the year at the exact same time.
Well, it's funny too, because Anne Heche playing her daughter, and Anne was the most mature. Anne was heavy at the time. It was before she got really skinny.
Yeah.
So Anne Heavy at 17 looked like she could be a peer of Felice. I mean, it was very strange. They looked more like contemporaries than mother-daughter.
Well, a lot of these, and Donna and Michael, Cass and Kathleen, and Jake and Marley were the three main couples of that year. They were all gone. Only Michael was left. So they brought on Felice as Donna, and they kind of made her into more of a heroine. And then they put her in a love triangle with John, and they kind of rewrote. When Anna Stewart left, she was clutching 3 pillows, and we thought, oh, she had triplets. And then it turns out John was the other person. They kind of rewrote that.
But I think it goes to show that there's recasts which can be incredibly successful. I mean, let's face it, Robin Strasser's Dorian was a recast. Victoria Wyndham was as Victoria.
Meg Bennett wasn't Meg Bennett the original Rachel on Another World?
Well, Martha Byrne wasn't the first Dorian as it returns.
Robin Strasser was the original Vicky on Another World.
Are you sure? Maybe.
No, Rachel.
Rachel, I'm sorry.
Robin Strasser was the first Rachel.
Okay. I'm getting.
And then
Meg Bennett did it?
No,
Meg Bennett never did it.
No, Victoria Impert or Margaret Impert. There was remember Rhonda Lewin, who was Vicky for 2 seconds?
We're losing viewers. That
was the second Rachel on Another World.
I think the whole point of all of that is that there's soaps are filled for better or for worse.
Give it time.
There's always been recasts. Some have been wildly successful, and some have not. I'm skeptical with this because I think Shamar Moore is just someone you don't replace. And I just think it's going to be very, very challenging for the actor to fill those shoes. And I think, whether some actors are easier to replace. And, I think for the sake of the show and for the Winters family, I really hope it goes well.
I used to love when Maeve Kincaid would take a vacation or Anna Stewart. There was that whole Maeve Kincaid, Anna Stewart, Sophia Landon. They all substituted for each other. Oh, I'm pregnant. I need a couple of weeks off. It's Christmas. I need a couple of weeks off. And it was kind of a treat because you knew it wasn't forever. But it was a different take.
Yeah.
Fun.
The other big thing going on is Days of Our Lives has really been on fire the last couple of weeks with the huge baby reveal, and pretty much every character in town, one way or another, has been impacted by the reveal that Sydney is actually Sammy and EJ's baby.
And that's classic good soap opera storytelling. When all the disparate things collide with one story.
Well, and we were talking before about short-term storytelling, and this is why I love soaps, and this is why I'm enjoying so much what Days of Our Lives is doing, because they're slowly, not really painfully slow, but they're telling at a good pace. Everyone in town is learning of this reveal and what it means to them in a certain different way, and everybody has a different relationship to what this baby reveal means to them. So episode by episode, people are learning about this. And that to me is the classic version of daytime storytelling, and that is why I think Days of Our Lives is the only show which has really gained in viewers this past year, because they're really adopting a classic format. The slow story upon story telling, not this quick short tornado plane crashing thing that soaps have gotten in the habit of doing.
Well, thank God for that's happening at NBC, because they're down to their last show.
Yeah.
So if there's any place that it's nice to know something good is happening for the ratings and everything, it's NBC, because that's all they got left. After that, they won't do anymore.
Gary Tomlin's producing. Did you ever have any?
Gary worked at Search for Tomorrow when I was there, and he did the very famous Sonny Adamson date rape story.
Marcia McCabe, I love.
Marcia McCabe is a goddess. She should work more. You hear that? Marcia McCabe. If you don't know, she was on Search for Tomorrow for years. She was on One Life to Live briefly as Alicia somebody. I can't remember the last name, short-lived. And then she did a one-off on As the World Turns, playing Larry Law's wife.
She was in Another World too. She played.
Oh, yeah, she was
Bunny Everhart.
Bunny.
Like Jake
Yep.
took her identity or something. It was.
Oh right, I remember that story. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know what the point was we're saying. Oh, but yeah, Gary Tomlin. He's a fabulous guy, and that's what's nice too. Gary Tomlin has been in the business for decades, and that's what you need. You can't just get, some hotshot who just wrote a sitcom last year that was really popular for 10 minutes. Get some people with some balls in there.
And give them the creative freedom to do what they need to do to shape the show up, which I think is what has been happening.
It's tough. There's so many chefs in the kitchen, and so many.
Now,
so
is
many...
that different from when you started?
No, you always had. Oh God, in a way, it's better. There was a woman. Oh, what was her name? She was somebody at 30 Rock, and every script had to go to her for clearance. So if a character said God, it had to be taken out. The writers would try and slip this stuff in. Damn had to be out. She would have notes about, keeping one foot on the floor if a couple was in bed. I mean, it was a whole other world back then. So you were always trying to appease all these different gods. So it probably is a little better today.
But speaking of 30 Rock, the show,
right.
Jane Krakowski was on Search for Tomorrow when you were on that.
She was. Jane and I worked together way back then. She was, she was a 16 girl from Parsippany, New Jersey. She and her mom would come in every day, and she had the funniest voice. She was supposed to be a teenage runaway, and she'd be like, "Oh," she had this little like Jersey girl thing coming in there. But she won an Emmy. She was the only one on Search for Tomorrow that decade that was winning Emmys, and. It was so funny because I was reunited with her recently. I see her on red carpet stuff, things like that. And I was like, Search for Tomorrow. We mentioned a few of the same old names. And I saw her cabaret show at the Regency, and that was a lot of fun to be. And I took Marcia McCabe with me and an old publicist from Search as well. So the three of us went and saw the show. I interviewed Jennifer Aniston a couple of weeks ago. And of course, her dad, John Aniston, from Days of Our Lives, used to be on Search for Tomorrow. And he played Jane Krakowski's Uncle Martin on Search. And my cat actually was on the show at the time as well. My cat Nancy played Bomber, the Centel family pet. Until Sherry Mathis screamed, "Get that cat to Claude!" And she went ballistic because the cat scratched her. So Bomber wasn't in any more scenes with Liza. But anyway, I asked Jennifer Aniston, I said, "Oh, I worked with your dad back on Search for Tomorrow back in the 80s. And she said, he said, he'd never remember me. She goes, "He remembers everybody. He would totally remember you." I said, "I was the one with the cat." And I said to her, "Why didn't you ever appear on Search for Tomorrow? Your dad was a star. Why weren't you?" She used to come to the set. We'd see her around as a teenager. She said, interesting. She said she auditioned to play TR. But Jane Krakowski got it. And I thought, wouldn't it have been interesting? Wouldn't it have been interesting if Jennifer Aniston's career had started on soap operas?
Wow.
And where would she be now and where would Jane be now? Jane's the most gifted Broadway singer, dancer, hoofer. She's unreal. I'm glad that she's getting success in sitcoms so that everybody can know her. But she's an amazing Broadway star.
That is really interesting. I had no idea.
So there you go. There's your trivia for the day.
I want to talk to you about web soaps. Martha Burns' show Gotham premiered Monday night.
Kudos, Martha.
I've been saying for a long time Martha was a person who's worked in soaps for decades who I would like to see run a show. I wanted to see her run As the World Turns, but since that's not possible, then she's producing her own. And I'm really excited about this. And you talked earlier about maybe people outside the soap community getting involved. I think that's a possibility. But
it would be good. And Laura Lee Bell, an old aerobics student of mine, how funny is that? I used to teach aerobics to Laura Lee Bell. And Laura Bryan Byrne, her crony, Paul's long-suffering secretary, remember? Paul's secretary, Lynn.
And Laura's father is married to Patty Weaver.
Right. But Laura Lee having Cloris Leachman and doing that whole web thing. I mean, that's the right idea. You've got to cross section it. Now, as I report for Australia, Ireland, England, I still am getting unheard of amounts of tweets on Twitter about people in Australia wanting information about Venice. And I for my television show, I have to consider the national audience of Australia. There's not a story. I'm able, when I find stories, and when they had the preview clip, I immediately got that onto my Twitter page, and all the anxiously waiting fans, they're just waiting for Venice, were immediately tweeting me back. So that's very exciting. And I think all these social networking sites, you bloggers, are what's going to make it work. And it all comes down to money. They just need to find a sponsor, and however many clicks they can get on their page to make it happen. That's the key.
Do you think that's going to be hard? I mean, I think about the old days of radio and how soap operas started on radio. And they had, it was a 15-minute show, and they had a sponsor, usually a soap company, and they made a profitable business off telling a 15-minute story sponsored by a soap company. I keep thinking, why can't they do that on the internet?
I mean, I can't have my segment without the sponsor. I mean, that's just how... But it's like that old paycheck said, it's not creative unless it sells. Somebody's got to pay the bills.
Right.
Nothing is free.
Right.
Watching it is free.
Right. Looking at the daytime genre now, there's 7 shows left. I think there were probably, 15 or 16 when you started. Do you think that
It makes me feel very old.
What do you think is going to happen?
Love was a many splendored thing.
What do you think? What do you think needs to happen, or could anything happen at this point to save network daytime television?
Tune in. And buy the
but given that people aren't doing
OxyClean
that,
or whatever, you've got to DVR it. I mean, whatever. You've got to buy the products and watch the show.
What's going to get for people to? What's it going to take for people to do that? I mean, do you think there needs to be better writing, better acting, or do you think it's just going to this is the natural course of the genre?
I think it may be the natural course of the genre, but as long as you keep it interesting for the diehards, and I mean, where would our passion and excitement for this be had it not been taught to us? We didn't just walk in front of the TV one day and watch it.
Right.
It was shared. It was shared like an oral history. But you have to share it. If you see something that you think is cool on a soap opera, talk about it, blog about it, have a viewing party for it, do something. I mean, you can now, thanks to interactivity, you can be a participating member of a community.
I agree, and I think it does need to be shared. We're shared soaps by, I was going to say indoctrinated, but in a good way, by our mothers or our grandmothers. Whenever I talk to Lynn Herring or James Reynolds, they're always like, who got you in? They're always like, who got you in? Your mother or was it your grandmother? People don't really seem to do that. I think they've alienated the mothers and the grandmothers, and so why would they share that with their children?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's just some kind of maybe there's going to be, who would have ever thought Sarah Palin would be so popular for a ratings grabber? But who knows? If Sarah Palin, who seems to be the celebrity of the week, okay? If Sarah Palin was a diehard, I don't know, name a show, General Hospital fan, and decided she wanted to go on General Hospital, that would be huge for them. So I think...
Monica Lewinsky was a huge Days of Our Lives fan, but they never took advantage of that.
She should have gone on with her handbags and a dirty dress. But I don't know. There's something there, the crossover stuff, just participating, getting people interested in it.
But in general, in the past 25 years, the number of viewers it takes to make a hit is much less. Like even Oprah, whose show's going off in 2 years, she was 13 million viewers 20 years ago. Now she's about 6 million viewers. So, daytime across the board, there's a lot less viewers.
A lot of people were talking about with the whole, my children moving thing, well, are they going to go to half hours? That may not be a bad idea. That may not be a bad compromise. It's a big commitment to spend hours and hours a day catching up on your shows, whether you're doing it as they air or not.
Well, Chris Galtman said about a year ago, I don't think people are going to watch this show more than 2 or 3 times a week. And he got raked over the coals for it, but I posted a classic article a couple of days ago from 1968, which basically said the same thing. All of our surveys have shown that people will only watch these shows 2 to 3 times a week. And it was really talking about how the TV soaps were different than radio soaps. But I thought it was interesting. They said the same thing 40 years ago, but they've still survived and even thrived after that.
Nobody's watching Jay Leno 5 times a week.
But again, I think daytime has opportunities other formats do not, which is the relationships the viewers have to the characters over time. And when they get rid of those characters or they sideline them, they sabotage those relationships. That's why I see an eroding of the viewers. Probably some of it was inevitable anyway.
Well, I'm hoping also, I think Days may be benefiting from the fact also, additionally to the storytelling, that there's nothing else on NBC like it to watch. If you missed Guiding Light, maybe now you're maybe giving a little extra affection to As the World Turns, just because it's close by on the same dial, kind of thing.
Right.
So
Well,
I hope so.
The other thing is, with the unemployment rate continuing to rise, there's more people at home now. There's more potential viewers you might be able to reel in,
including the crew from Guiding Light. That's the sad news.
What are they watching?
But that's the sad thing is that the people that are churning out the product are out of work, as well.
Now, when Search was still on versus now, how has the Nielsen rating system really changed? Other than
I don't think it has. I think it's a dinosaur. I think wow, modern technology. We can figure out if you taped it. I mean, I've always thought the Nielsens were an antiquated and unrepresentative, unfair
right. Well, if Guiding Light had 2 million viewers, that's probably like 500 people with a Nielsen diary. It's like
And let's make a deal doing? I mean, come on.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. It's just my all-time least favorite game show. So now I hate it even more since it replaced Guiding Light.
I think all the Guiding Light cast should get back together, get in costumes, and go down to Let's Make a Deal and rough up Wayne Brady.
Well, on that note,
Wayne Brady wouldn't have been a bad Malcolm.
And that would be a very interesting story for your book if that happened. Hollywood Insider Exposed. What is the best way for our watchers to get your book?
Go to a bookstore. Go to a bookstore. It's actually, I think it's a few bucks cheaper on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
You get it. And NelsonAspen.com is my website, which has links to everything.
Okay.
And if you get it and you like it and you write me or you tweet me, signed books make great Christmas gifts. I'll send you signed bookmarks or something.
That's wonderful.
Just communicate. I think it's.
Wonderful.
I'm so excited to meet you guys, and it wouldn't have been without you being bloggers that we wouldn't have met.
I'm so excited too. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I hope we can do this again.
We will do it again.
Yeah.